Well, guys, I'm out here. I'm going to try to give you a garden update. My little mother of millions plants that I took out, the babies, they're still doing good. But look, I still got another couple of them down in there that need to come out. All my plants down here are doing good, except for that peppermint. It just does not get enough sun up here on this porch. So it really needs to be put somewhere in the sun. But it's just going to have to survive this summer, because I've got other plants in there that need partial shade. So we'll see what happens by the end of the summer, and then I might move it somewhere else. And my insulin plant, still growing. I got my squash and pepper plants in there. Zucchini. Zucchini's not doing as good as the squash. And of course my cucumbers. Muncher cucumbers. No, that's early dew melon in the bottom one. I wrote it on the bucket inside so I could tell. This one is the Muncher cucumbers right here. This is the Muncher cucumber. That is a pumpkin plant there. This is Muncher cucumber. And I think that is Muncher cucumber. No, that's early dew melons there at the bottom. Cilantro, and I don't remember what I planted next to it. Some kind of either squash or cucumber. I don't remember because I didn't mark it. Yellow squash there. Muncher cucumber in the little white bucket. And I planted some tomato seed, I think it was, in the black tote. It's not come up yet. I got a little Roma tomato there. No, that's a dwarf bush tomato right there in that little yellow bucket. And then that's the squash. Sunflower. Cilantro. Like a cucumber, and I think I put tomato seed back there. That looks like it might be coming up. Got a couple of sprouts. Cilantro and a yellow squash. Cucumber in the black bucket, and I got tomatoes planted in the black tote from seed. I haven't seen any sprout yet. Straight 8 cucumber, and I got tomato seed planted in the blue tub. Straight 8 here. And I think I planted tomato back there, tomato seed. And that is another cucumber, or I don't know what that is. I didn't mark it right there to the side. It's got what looks like a watermelon seed to it. I planted some tomato seed in that big tote. There's cilantro and a cucumber in the little one. And I got sunflowers and marigolds, I think zinnia, in there with the clematis. And look at the clematis. Isn't that pretty? This is the purple one. I mean, that is so pretty. Look at that. Deep, rich purple. And so, you know, it had the lighter color on the left side, and then it has the deep purple on this side, and it's going up over the arbor. And they're blooming up there. Gonna have to start training these to go up the trellis, because they're going everywhere but where they're supposed to be going. But that's the way they do sometimes when they first start out. My basil, I don't know. That plant, it's still surviving, but maybe it'll all of a sudden take hold and just start growing. I got I think I can't see the name on but the little bucket over there behind the basil, that's a tomato plant. I got tomato plants in here, and a pepper plant, tomato plant in the little black one, and my marigolds and stuff are coming up here. I think it's about time. And look at my bell pepper. That's my red bell pepper. Pretty soon I'm going to have to start pulling those out and transplanting them. And there goes my delicious tomato. The delicious tomato plants seem like are doing better than any of them this year. And there goes more marigolds. And there goes my Roma tomato seed right there. And that came up from the slice of Roma tomato that I sliced. I don't know if you remember, I think I showed in a video one time where I had a Roma tomato. I ate most of it, but I put one slice down here in this pot and barely covered it up. And I've got all those plants come up from those seeds, just from that one slice of tomato. And see the marigolds and the peppers, okra, all that's coming up in my cinder blocks that we planted. Got a cilantro there, the little one. And I got Roma tomato plants there. And I put pepper seed, the yellow banana pepper, to this black trellis that hasn't come up yet. Kohlrabi. And I put in some of the leek plants. Marigold, okra, cilantro, tomatoes. That's a super steak there. I can't wait till that gets big. It ought to have some really big tomatoes. And those delicious tomato plants back there, they're supposed to have the bigger tomatoes. So we'll see. And my little onions there are coming up. I planted from seed. And this is, it kind of does like the Egyptian walking onions, but these are garlic chives. And it puts out a whole bulb that bursts at the top of little garlic chives with plant, you know, it's just a cluster. It's interesting how they do that. But, you know, look at that. It's a whole cluster of little bulbs in there. But that's garlic chives, y'all. And I've got a super steak tomato growing there. That's the reason I've got it at this big trellis right here, so it can grow up it. Cilantro. And my little tomato plants are doing fine in there. They're little. But pretty soon I'm going to have to be taking them out and dividing them up, because I don't want 6 tomato plants in one little hole here. So I'll be able to pull those out. Those are doing better. Look at that. They're putting out true leaves already. But I'll be able to pull out a lot of those and place them somewhere else, because you don't want but one plant growing in a hole there. And my leeks that I planted, my Brussels sprouts, my leeks there in their little pots with the peppermint. Little plants right there. Get a good shot of it. It's like there's 3 or 4 tomato plants come up in there. And see, these little seedlings have come up, and those were the last ones that I planted. I just threw out some seeds after taking the other plants out, just as backups. I said if they survive and come up, then I'll have backups for some of my plants that I've already planted that don't make it. I'll be able to come and take these and replace plants with it. But my peppermint and my tomatillos. Tomato plants there. And for the life of me, I can't remember what kind of tomato it is. But I got 2 little dwarf tomato plants there that don't look too good, but they're still alive with my peas. And my tomato plant there, that's a delicious tomato. You know, we planted sweet pepper in here, so it hasn't come up yet. My potatoes are coming up in the bags. Tomato there. And my sweet peas. They're full of little blossoms, so ought to be putting out some peas. I've eaten 2 of those off of that bush already this morning. And there goes my yellow squash. I think that's a yellow squash in a little pot. Yellow squash. My leeks. And oh, look what I got in there with my leeks. That's one of those devil worms that stings you so bad. I gotta get something to get him out of there. Oh man. I'm gonna have to put the camera down a minute. See if I can get him out. Don't want him in there. Look at there, he curled up. Don't want him in there. I'll forget about him being there, and then all of a sudden one day I'll run my hand in there and he'll sting me. So I got rid of him. And there's my yellow bell peppers and some hot peppers. They're mixed. They're just coming up from seed. I've got a yellow squash there. Cucumbers here. I planted straight 8s and munchers. Cucumbers there. And that's a cucumber. I got to replant there because whatever I think I put an okra there, it didn't come up. The okra came up here though. So I'll be able to transplant some of those. And that's okra there. That's a shark fin melon or shark fin squash. Yellow squash. My cabbage. And there's a cabbage. And there's my shark fin squash. And you know, we planted leeks all in these pots with this other stuff the other day. They're doing okay. Chinese lettuce and Swiss chard and black zucchini right there coming out of the top. I got parsley coming up down there. My leeks. My yellow squash. You know, we planted leeks in here with all this other stuff. They seem to be doing okay. I got a cantaloupe there. Cabbage. My oriental lettuce and salad greens. Kale. Cantaloupe right down there in the middle. More of the greens. Crimson watermelon right there. Yellow squash in the pink tote. I got a sunflower. I've got catnip in that small butter container. Kajari melon right there, and I need to transplant some of them. That's too many in there. See, I'm going to end up with so many plants, I'm not going to have pots to put them in. And my potatoes, I still have not put dirt to my potatoes. I need to put more dirt. Because as they grow and get tall, you need to put dirt to them. Because they'll put out roots with potatoes all along that stem. And if I don't add the dirt, then they can't put out the potatoes. And there's all kind of mixed bell pepper. Yellow, red, green, orange. And I got cantaloupe and squash. Yellow bell pepper and hot bell pepper in there. And looky here at my my summer or my Easter spring garden. I got all of the totes but that one right there over in that line. And I wished I could have got it over on that side, but I do not want to move that big boulder it's sitting on. It's fine right where it's at. It's marking 5 feet from the property line anyway, so it's good. And I've got shark fin squash in there in the tote. And then I've got a cantaloupe planted in the little bucket or the little pot. I had a purple eggplant seed put there, but it didn't come up. It still may come up, but I put a marigold in there. And like I said, I cannot pronounce the name of this cucumber. That's the name of it. But I can't pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. It's one of those Chinese or Japanese type cucumbers. So I can't wait to see what it's going to do. And this is all my romaine lettuce. And I got a mixed pepper seed planted there. And it's got 2 plants, so I'm going to have to pull those up, put them somewhere else. And then I got winter squash here. Hot peppers here. I think I put a marigold in there. I've got Kajari melon in the little black pot. I've got shark fin squash there. Parsley did not come up, so I went ahead and put me a marigold in there. But the parsley seed still may come up. Something's coming up right there. I see green, but no telling what it is. And then I got a sunflower there, yellow squash and a shark fin squash in the middle. Sunflowers. And this is yellow squash here. And that one there. And this is Kajari melon. And I'm going to have to pull some of those out. That's too many plants in there. And I've got yellow squash here and there. A sunflower. And that's catnip in this little container there that's coming up. Looks like maybe one seed came up. If that's what that is. And you can see my rose bushes are doing real well. And see, I got more of my garlic chives here. They've all got little buds bursting out with little plants in them, little garlic chives. I think it's kind of odd that it grows that way, but it's kind of neat. And I got a sweet banana pepper planted in the very middle right there. I got a brandywine tomato right down there in the middle. It's real tiny, but it's going to grow. I got a sunflower, kohlrabi, I've got a super steak tomato planted right there, and a cucumber planted right there, and something ate the leaves off of it, but the stem is still alive, so it might put out another leaf or two. I've got green bell pepper planted right back here. This is a squash, I think. I've got 2 squash with the sunflower. A sunflower here, gladiolus here. My bok choy in that first one. Oriental lettuce here. Radishes here. And I've got, well, this is the lettuce, and it had pepper seed in there, but I don't know if the pepper seed ever came up or will come up. So I went ahead and put my lettuce in there. That was that lettuce we started in that little tray in the greenhouse. So it's really starting to grow since it's been out here. And my rose bush here. I've got a peppermint plant right there. My walking onions. Now, doesn't that look weird? It started at the bottom and it works its way all the way up. And here's one that's already to the top. It's fixing to burst open. And it'll be like the garlic chives. It'll burst out into little bulbs. Little onions. And you can let them dry. And that's how you start new plants. You let those little plants dry at the end. And then you take them off and replant them. And it'll start you new plants. And of course the original plant will come up every year as well. But you can eat them as well. I mean, but I like to leave some of them so they'll produce little bulbs to replant. So I can start another pot of walking onions. I think it's neat. Every one of them's fixing to put out a little cluster. I've got delicious tomato seed planted here. It's not come up yet. I've got a super steak tomato right there. The one on this side didn't make it. I've got a crimson watermelon here. I've got a marigold. And I think a pepper plant over there. I didn't mark them. I marked the watermelon, didn't mark anything else. And there's my eggplant. Got several eggplants, look like may make it. With the okra. Brandy boy tomatoes. Roma tomato. With my asparagus. And that's a delicious tomato there. And you know, the delicious tomatoes are supposed to be the bigger tomatoes. I've got a hot pepper. No, that's a gold bell pepper. Roma tomato plants there. I got a pepper plant there. I think that's a bell pepper. My blueberry bush, I moved it over there. And these are the, I think brandywine or the golden brandywine, I think. And there's a bell pepper. Huh. Something just ate off of my pepper plant right there. My okra. Gold bell pepper. And I got the other color bell peppers planted down in here. A delicious tomato over there. And I need to replant another one at this end of it. And I got brandywines. I think that brandy boy tomatoes here. My jolly green tree collards. My Roma tomato. That one's doing good. It's one of the first ones that I transplanted from the seeds. My green cabbage. My beets. My carrots. I need to take these cages off of my cabbage, I guess. Because even though I've had them covered, something got to that one. And that one there too. And I went ahead and pulled the leaves off that was all eaten up, so it would put out new leaves. But something got to them even though I had the cage over them. I've got okra and marigolds coming up in my blocks. I should have peppers coming up in some of them. Golden cherry tomato there. I've got a brandywine back there. Little one. I got the brandywines and the cherry tomatoes planted back there in them pots. They're little tiny plants because they came up from seed, but they should grow. My beets. I got brandy boy back there. They're little, but you can see them. And then I got a cucumber, I think, in the pot, the black pot. But you can see that little tomato plant in that pot there. There's a little one in that one. And there's one in that one. And they should all... And this is delicious tomato. See, I don't know. Seem like the delicious tomatoes do the best here. And I've got early D melons planted back there in the blue pot. Of course, like I said, my marigolds and my okra. Other stuff is all coming up here. My beets. Look how pretty those beet leaves are. Did you know you can eat beet leaves? You can put them in your salads just like you do your collards and your kale. My raspberry. And I think it's broccoli in that little pot. And see that pink one back there? Little tomato plant in that. I've got a squash right there. Of course, my peppermint. And all my okra, my marigolds seem to be coming up. Tomato plant. And that's one of the cherry tomatoes. I don't know which one. That's the sweetie cherry there. And I think that's a sweetie cherry. And I got 2 squash planted back here. Let's see what this was. I think it's bok choy. Oh, kohlrabi. With my other plant in the middle that I can't remember the name of. But the other is kohlrabi. So that's kohlrabi right there. Let's walk around this way. But there's the rose bushes that we planted. I mean, they're looking good. It takes them a while to get established. That's why some of the leaves look kind of funky. But look at all the new leaves that it's put out down here. The new leaves look real good. My clematis. It needs to go through here. And I don't want to break it. There. Maybe that'll keep it up there until it grows on its own. Yeah, but a lot of times I start out wondering if my stuff is going to live or survive. And then I have like clumps of seed that come up in one pot that I have to transplant. So I end up with a lot more plants than I anticipated. But look at these rose bushes. For some reason, I don't know, they seem like they're growing better over on this side and this is the side I didn't think they were going to grow as good on because of the rocks. But I guess maybe they like the rocks. Have no idea. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? All that stuff growing out of the buckets. And I got my okra here that come up from seed with my marigold. Because the marigold's trying to help keep the bugs away. I got okra here with a marigold. And look at that. We didn't think this one was going to make it. Look at the new leaves it's putting out. So I don't worry about that one anymore. As long as I keep it in water, it's going to grow. And all of these wildflowers are fixing to bloom. They're going to be pretty. We just need more rain. My crepe myrtle. They all look dead, but now they've come out with new leaves. And see that plant right there with the little white flowers? That's some that I put out from seed, but I don't remember the name of it. And maybe one of these days I'll get more cement or concrete and finish this. It just hasn't been on my priority yet. I mean, I got the top fixed the way I wanted so that bird bath would be secure. But I need to get more bags of cement mix or whatever they call it and finish it. But as you can see, it's not a big priority. The plants will live just the way they are. The rocks ain't going nowhere the way I fixed the top, so it's not on my priority list to get that done. And there's my cabbage. And it looks like it's going to try to head up 1, 2, 3, at least 4 cabbages. The other one is starting to put out some little side shoots, but it didn't have quite as many roots as when I put it down as the other one, so it's growing a little bit slower. Take a look at the roses on the property line. I mean, they're all living. That one. And this one here. That one's pretty with a rose right at the top. And this one. And look at all my moonflowers. Some of them are real tiny. They're just poking out of the ground. But it won't be long before they're up big and they start putting out those really beautiful white flowers. I enlarged it just a little bit so I don't have to bend down so much. See all those moonflowers I planted last year, they're coming back up. Or some of the seeds are coming. I know that the plants are coming. And I think it's the same plant coming up from the root because each one of the new plants is coming up where the old plant was planted. Because you can see right here, this one is coming up at the base. It came up at the base of that. Got a sunflower in there too, right there. I got mums back there. Moonflowers coming up in the pots where I didn't want them, but you know how that goes. the wind blows a stray seed, it's going to take root and come up. And I got a marigold planted right there. I need to get more around here. I'd love to have the marigolds all the way around the edge of the rock garden. And I got mums in that back there. And it's got little moonflowers coming up around it that need to be transplanted somewhere else, I guess. Or I may take out the mums in that bulb and transplant them somewhere else. Because if I leave those moonflowers there, they're going to take over this pot. So what I might do is take the moonflowers out, those little plants, and put them out here in the rock garden to get them out of here. But there's that rose bush. And this one. I need to put that back to normal, I guess. My rose bush out here is doing good. And my crepe myrtle. I'll eventually move this rose bush as that crepe myrtle bush gets bigger. And then I've got my blue bonnets there. And some right there. See, my wood chip pile has gotten tremendously smaller since I moved all of them. Or most of them. But I don't know about this sunflower here. It's growing good. It likes it there. But I'm afraid it's going to grow all right up underneath the roof when the flower blooms and you won't be able to see the flower. But I got all this other stuff growing here too. These other flowers. Those are starting to bloom. And look, I got a squash in there. I got a squash in there. That's some of my insanity planting. I just thought it would look good to have a big squash plant on each corner and have it trellising over the front. We'll see. It's an experiment. See how it works. But I love the sunflower, but I really hope it don't get much taller, but I know it will. Because I don't want it to hide the flower up under the roof of the wishing well. That crepe myrtle is doing good out there at the mailbox. Look at all those pretty little pink, yellow wildflowers. They're up all over the yard. And my green bell peppers, my sweet cherry tomatoes, which will grow all the way up this trellis, and my tomatoes back there are growing. And I got other plants that have come up voluntarily. And I'm not sure what this is. I don't remember planting a squash in there. We'll see what it is when it gets bigger, I guess. And there's that pot of flower seeds that all came up. And every once in a while I'll pull a marigold out and put it around the yard and other places. Because you don't want that many plants in one pot. One or two plants, maybe 2 or 3 plants in there is enough because it'll take over the pot. My nasturtium has come up. I put, I think, 3 seeds in here. And there's a voluntary tomato plant. So I don't know what kind of tomato it is, but it's probably a cherry tomato, one that was planted here last year, that dropped a seed or a tomato, and the seeds you know, germinated and came up. And here is my garlic. Garlic is looking good. That peppermint's looking good. And see, I plant those tomatoes, the cherry tomatoes, that will travel and just grow all the way up to the top of that wire cage, because the hummingbirds love it when you do that. I guess they feel safe when they're in the greenery, so to speak. I need to put some water to this peppermint. Maybe I'll do that while I'm walking around, because if I don't do it now, I'll forget. I watered everything else. I don't know how come I missed the peppermint yesterday. But I got broccoli in that little green pot. I've got broccoli there. I got a squash there in that little round one. There's my last celery that I planted. There's the first one I planted. So they're doing good. Look at all my sunflowers. I think I planted sunflowers, zinnias, and something else in there. My mum's right here. Keep the weeds out and the oak trees out. That's the problem with using a lot of your native soil. If you have a lot of oak trees growing, because you're bound to get those seeds in there and you're going to have oak trees growing. And look at all the wildflowers coming up between the cracks in the concrete. And I hate to pull them out because it'll just kill them. It'll break them. My roses. My peppermint. My little hummingbird water fountain. All these plants that came up were so pretty when they were blooming. Had big white flowers. My rose bush. This one's not looking too good right now because it has all these dead buds, where it was just full of flowers about a week ago. But it'll come back. All these will dry and it'll put out new buds and bloom all over again. My daylilies down here. And look at this. My crepe myrtle. I thought it was a goner, but it's putting out new sprouts, new leaves. So it's all right. But I got all this grass that comes up that don't belong in here. And I tell you, when the flowers grow good, the grass grows good. And I can't get that out. And I've got Bermuda grass growing here too. It might have been all right if the Bermuda grass would stay in the yard and not come up in my flowers. But grass seed is like everything else. Wherever the wind blows it, it's going to come up. Those would be pretty when those daylilies bloom. That's a dead tree there, or bush, that I need to cut out of there, but I just haven't done it. The rose bush there is already bloomed and got a bunch of dead buds on it, but it'll come back and put out a whole new crop of roses before long. And there's my rose bush there. And there's one of the flower bulbs I was telling you about. I planted those years ago and they come up every year, right along with my daylilies. And this is one here I thought had died. But look at the leaves coming back out on it. So it's making a comeback. And here's this pot that we planted. Remember, we broke a part of the coleus off of that other one and stuck it in here to root, and it looks like it's taking root. The marigolds are living, and I'm not sure what this one is. We've got several other things growing in there too, but I don't remember the name of them. But all my mums, my daylilies, and the other stuff, half my bulbs haven't come up. We haven't gotten enough rain for it to come up. But everything green out here is either mums, daylilies, or some other flower bulb that's come up. Gladiolas. And see, there's some more of these things that I forget the name of them. I had them all over the rock gardens. I got one here. They have beautiful flowers on them. Daylilies, my rose bush right there, my mums, this rose bush, and all the petals are getting ready to fall off. That's why they look so bad, and then they'll bloom again. And that Mexican plant's coming back out. This mum is getting ready to bloom. It's got buds on it. And that rose bush here that we planted. And there's another one of those flower bulbs coming up that I can't remember the name of. Another Mexican plant. And that rose bush. Oh. My daylilies all up there. It's going to be pretty when they bloom. And this is full of daylilies. The Mexican plant. See, that's a Mexican one plant right there coming up. It's got all different kinds of, like daffodils, daylilies, the Mexican plant. This wild plant here that I call the Easter plant because it comes up usually and blooms at Easter and later. I don't really know what the name of it is. But my peppermint's there. And I may stick something else in there too before it's over with. I don't know. And that squash that's there, it's still alive, but it don't look too good. I mean, it might make it. I'm just going to leave it there and let it see. Let me see. It's a yellow squash. Because they say clematis loves plants planted at its base to keep the roots shaded. It helps keep the roots cool. And you can see it's all the way up to the top. And all these seeds came up. And I've pulled one or two of these out already. And I do believe I've got a potato. That is a potato plant right there. Can you believe that? Potato in my flowers. That needs to go somewhere else. Not here. And this is yellow squash at each corner. And then in the very center, I've got a cucumber planted. My peppermint, my clematis, with my squash at the bottom. And this one has finally started traveling up that pole. So it'll go right on up the pole and up the arbor eventually. See, this was the clematis that I saved all winter. And I've been breaking pieces off of it, and all you have to do is break it off and stick it in the wet dirt, keep the dirt moist, and it'll root and start you another plant. Just like up in here, I broke 2 of them off and stuck them down in here, one over there, and they're going to root and live. I just wish I didn't have the peppermint in here, because that peppermint does not grow good up here. It doesn't get enough sun, or I don't think it does. And then I've got yellow squash and peppers planted here. I think it's a red bell pepper planted here with my 2 squash. And I've got zucchini, marigolds, and a pepper plant here. Early dew melon there in the bottom. Muncher cucumber. Muncher cucumber. Muncher cucumber. Early dew melons. And my pumpkin down there in the bottom. Interesting to see what my pumpkin does this year. Cilantro, cucumber, and I got tomato seed planted in there. And I've got a tomato plant right down there in that pot. And I got one over there. Those were the little seedlings, but they're tiny. But I think they'll grow and they'll do all right in time. It's just going to take them a little bit of time. I got a yellow squash there. And I had red poppy seed in there, but the plants came up, but they just fell over. I don't know. I don't think they got enough sun. Muncher cucumbers. I planted tomato seed in the back of that tote. I've got a dwarf tomato bush right there in the yellow pot. I got a yellow squash there, sunflower, cilantro, cucumber, and I've got tomato seed planted there, and I think you can barely see some of the sprouts coming up. I got a yellow squash there, cilantro. I got a cucumber, and I got tomato seed planted in the black tote that have not come up yet. Muncher cucumber, tomato seed planted in the blue pot. Straight 8 cucumber in the round one, and I've got tomato seed planted in the round black tote or pot. Cilantro and a cucumber planted there. And I've got tomato seed in the big one. And I think the tomato seed is coming up. Or just started to sprout up. And I've got, I think, sunflower, zinnias, marigolds planted there with this clematis. And look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I can't remember if I showed you all this before or not. I probably did. But I got tomatoes all over here. I think that's about it. I showed you back here, I think, already. Yeah, so right now my plants were so tiny because they got a late start in the greenhouse, I think. But I think they'll do all right. Given a little bit more time. And I'm going to go stick this little potato plant in one of these pots, I think. Or I might stick it in here. And I'll probably end up with red potatoes and white ones together. Because I do remember I planted the red potatoes here. And this is a white potato, I can tell by the little potato cutting. But you can definitely tell the potatoes apart when they grow, so. The main thing to remember is when you plant seeds in pots or totes, you got to keep the top damp so the seeds will sprout. The tomatillos, and I planted more marigolds in there because I want to take them out and put them around the rock garden when they come up. So I think that's pretty much the update on my garden for right now. I mean, before long, this whole place is going to look like it is going to look like a jungle. It'll look like it did last year and the year before. I'll have so many plants just growing up together, you're not going to know one from the other. Let's see, I've got a little tomato planted in there. That's a golden cherry, and I think that's a golden cherry back there at the back. They're little seedlings that came out of the greenhouse. But you can see they're alive, and they will produce a big plant in, just given a little bit of time, just like these other ones did. I have not bought one plant this year. Everything you see growing out here came from seed that I planted. Even those big tomato plants over there, they were all seeds that I planted. So you can take the price of a plant and buy probably 2 packages of seed and grow more tomatoes than you ever want for just the price of one plant, because they're like $4 now, I think. Some of them are more than that. Like I said, I did catch Roma tomato plants, a basil, and I think a pepper plant. They had them on sale for $1.99 each, and I started to get 6 of them. But you know what? I said, I'm running out of space to put stuff now. What am I going to do with 6 plants? And I don't need to buy them because look at all the plants I got right there. Why would I need to spend $1.99 for a pepper plant when I've got dozens of them coming up right there from those seed I threw in that pot? I've got more peppers than I'm going to know what to do with if all these plants survive. So I definitely don't need to buy none. So, and like I said, I replanted seed in these little cups that have just come up. After I took the plants out and planted them in the yard, I reseeded them with peppers and tomato plants just in case I needed backup plants. I'd have them here. And some of them don't look too good because they just sprouted out of the ground. Out of the cup. But for the most part, they're doing good. Get that down there so I can get some water. And I've just been leaving them out. I don't put them in the greenhouse. I keep all this stuff up in here because I don't have nowhere else to put it. All my little starter pots, and it needs to be cleaned out. And I will. When I buy more plastic to recover it for this winter. I don't know when I'll do that. But yeah, y'all, that's my garden. I think I got a good start on making some good stuff this year. If it all survives. It feels like it wants to rain. But I don't know if they were calling for rain or not today. Just trying to get a good shot of that clematis up there. Look, the top of the arbor. Isn't that pretty? All of it's pretty. The clematis right behind the rose bush. That's beautiful. It really is. That's pure joy right there. Well, leaving you with that good image right there, I couldn't start out my morning any better than to be out here with a cup of coffee and looking at my rose bushes and my other flowers. And with that, I am going to thank you for hanging out with me this morning. Like I said, putting up with my insanity. Who would think of putting squash plants in a wishing well right along with your flowers? Well, you'll never know what I'm going to try. Sometimes it turns out good and sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, thanks again for hanging out with me. Y'all have a blessed day. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos. I'll see you on my next one. Bye now.